Welcome to the Accountability Podcast, where we'll be talking about burning boxes and breaking chains. Those boxes that are limiting your beliefs on what you can do, and those chains that may be holding you back from things that you really want to accomplish. Welcome to the next episode of Burning Boxes and Breaking Chains, a podcast about accountability. Today we're going to be talking to my friend Lori Bruhns about it's my fault and holding ourselves accountable. But first, let me tell you a little bit about who Lori is. It says, what happens when you have a passionate educator decides to revolutionize the way leaders lead? You get Lori. Multilingual executive coach whose unconventional journey from Spanish teacher and boardroom catalyst has redefined what a coaching executive can achieve. She's known for her infectious positive energy. I can attest to that. Kind humor and genuinely inviting presence. Lori doesn't just coach leaders, she unleashes them. Y'all help me welcome Lori to the podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
That energy is what connected us 3 years ago now. Oh my gosh.
I know.
In 2022 at the NSA in Nashville. That's right.
Yeah.
Lori gave my seat away so I sold it on eBay for my chair that I was sitting in. So that's how we connected. So that's a story for another day.
That's right.
But how you been?
I'm great.
The boys good?
The boys are great. Everybody's done with first semester of sophomore year.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. They settling down then in college?
Yep. Actually, Enzo is very excited. He goes to Oklahoma, as you know.
Yeah.
Alabama is playing Oklahoma, so he got
Roll Tide. Tell him I said Roll Tide.
Go Boomer Sooner.
He can probably never make those words come out of his mouth, but that's okay.
So he was really excited, Jeff, because the game day is going to be there. ESPN game day is going to be there again. So it's a big
deal. That they canceled all classes and stuff. Yeah, awesome.
They did. They were. This week is exam week, and they shifted everything for the kids to go to the game.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm hoping for the same outcome that we had. We beat Georgia, then we lost to Georgia. Oklahoma beat us, so now I'm hoping we beat them back. We'll see Friday night.
And then Saturday, Texas A&M, where Traver goes, plays Miami. So,
wow, you got two kids in the playoffs. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So let's get this thing moving here about accountability. Yes, I got a question for you.
Tell me.
What does accountability mean to you?
Well, it depends. It depends if accountability is personal or with other people. So let's start with other people, because you and I have been accountability partners since we met. Mm-hmm. And accountability for me and you has looked like making sure we check in, making sure that we can support each other with whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
And that check-in is huge, because as entrepreneurs, you're basically on your own island. And when someone is your accountability partner and they check in with you, you don't feel like you're on an island all by yourself.
This is true. I think our check-ins need to get a little closer to each other.
I
know. We've let them stretch out a little too far.
And we pick up right where we left off.
That's true.
And that's the cool part. And we don't always check in face to face. You and I will be like, you good? Yes. And we'll shoot a text making sure that we're staying on track for what we want. Mm-hmm. Now, personal accountability, that's a little bit different. Are we doing what we're saying we're going to do? Are we pushing ourselves just a little bit beyond the edge? And I'll be very honest. Last night, I actually held myself accountable. I'm going to start doing a little bit more videos on my leadership strategy stuff. And so I made sure that my new microphone worked on my MacBook. I did a small video. So that's accountability to me when you can hold yourself to doing what you say you're going to do to others.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree with that. And I've joined some other mastermind classes, or not classes. It's a mastermind groups. I've got two different ones with, it's ironic, different speakers. One's from the National Speakers Association. The other one's from a group of people that I've met at John Maxwell. And we have them, one's every week, the other one's every other week. So, and we're going to actually start a different mastermind class around one of John's books in January, which is going to be very cool. Excuse me. But holding yourself accountable, and I was just talking with another gentleman earlier, it's the person you look at in the mirror. You got to be able to look in the mirror. I was sort of coaching a lady today. I went to a luncheon for the local chamber of commerce, and the new president, she said, I've got to speak. And she said, maybe you can help me be a better speaker. I said, absolutely. I said, and one of the key things, I said, you know the material? And she goes, yeah. I said, then right before you go on stage, I said, do what I do. Even today, when I go and speak in front of hundreds of people, my last thing I do before I take the stage, I'll walk into a restroom and look myself in the eye and go, you got this. You got this. You have to talk to yourself better than you listen to other people. Because the fact of the matter is, we have more conversations in our head with ourselves than we ever have with anybody else. And that's the way you're going to hold yourself accountable. And it's like the poem, The Man in the Glass. That was a huge one for me years ago. Being able to look myself in the eye and know that I'm accountable to me. But it works too, and it creates a good camaraderie being accountable to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And because we know we are people, we're all people persons, and we need people to get through. Sometimes it's a touch, sometimes it's just a kind voice on the other end of the phone. Sometimes it's somebody checking in when a family member is not doing well.
Yep.
Which I do that with people a lot too, because people did it for me when my mother and my father were both ill years ago. So yeah, because I met you right after my mom passed, and literally like the same month.
Yep.
She had passed the 1st of July.
And then my mom went through what she did right after our Maxwell leadership. Remember, I had to leave early.
Absolutely, I remember that. Maxwell's going to be in Dallas next year.
That's awesome.
In March, yeah, the IMC, so it's down to 3 days. It's going to be there. But that's the thing is not only being able to hold ourselves accountable, but other people as well. And the thing is, so what was the first time that you can remember? You're very young, so I'm going to tax your memory here, that you really realized it's my fault and it made a difference.
I could tell you lots of stories. So growing up in a home where I'm first generation born here. My parents are from Sicily. It was very.
No, I didn't know that.
All these years.
Okay.
Okay, so now you know. I really thought you knew that.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, so they held me accountable for owning up to they held me accountable for owning up to what I did and didn't do. And so even as a young child, I'd be like, all right, yeah. Especially when it came to my brother, like when we would argue and stuff. And I'd have to be like, I'll never forget this. I wrote his name on the wall.
What wall?
I don't know, kitchen wall. Or, I don't remember.
Oh my goodness.
But I wrote his name on the wall, and my mom's like, Mario, did you write this? And he's like, no. And then she looked at me, and I cannot tell a lie. And so I was like, yes, I did it. So, but that I remember that. Like I had to own up to writing his name on the wall.
Siblings get us in so much trouble.
And I'm the older one. I'm older by 3 years. So,
wow.
But you have to admit, I was very crafty in putting his name versus my name.
Oh Yeah, why put yours on there? It makes it an immediate. So what had he done to make you want to do that?
I was just, I don't know, probably nothing other than like, I bet you I could get you in trouble.
Being mischievous.
Yeah.
Most kids are.
Yeah. So,
That's the thing I told my daughter about my two granddaughters. I said, "You're in trouble now." She said, "Why?" I said, "Because what one doesn't think of, the other one will."
oh, oh, and so funny you say that because, the boys had to own up to something really big. Um, they, as you know, I got twins.
Oh, yeah.
And so the biggest thing that they had to own up to was putting a dent in my car. So let me tell you the story. The boys had just gotten their licenses, so they couldn't have been more than 17 years old, 16 and a half, 17. Down here in North Carolina, we start driving at like 15 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And they went to go babysit. So they babysat together around the corner. And I said to them, do not park in the neighbor's driveway. It's hard to get out. Just park in the front and walk up. That was the last thing I said to the boys. So one night, I get a text from the neighbor saying, hey, did the boys see if the pizza guy hit the mailbox? She's like, I ordered the boys pizza and someone hit my mailbox. So I went and I looked at the car and there was a dent. And I didn't say anything to the boys. And one night we were having dinner and I said, boys, so and so said, the neighbor said that the mailbox was hit. My one son, Enzo, crumbled. Not even 2 seconds. It was like, I told you she'd find out. I told you she'd find out.
Yeah. Guilt has a way of making us take ownership sometimes.
So,
Yeah.
and Traver was driving, Enzo was passengering. And I said, okay, that's fine. We're going to go. You're going to pay for a new mailbox. You're going to put it on and you're going to apologize. I said to them, and don't ever forget, I always find everything out.
There was a time my son told me he was going to be somewhere skateboarding, and I get a call that he was somewhere else, and he happened to have a cell phone that he was old enough to. And I called him. I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "We're out skateboarding." I said, "I thought you said you were going to be over here." I said, "What are you doing over there?" And he goes, "How'd you know?" I said,
Mhm.
"I always know." I didn't tell him one of our friends saw him and snitched on him.
Yeah. And like I said, the neighbor was like, did the boys see if, the pizza driver hit the mailbox because the mailbox is down? Otherwise, they might have gotten scot free. By the way, I did not fix that dent in the car so that they always remember that story.
Well, I gotta tell you, I was out one day years ago talking about taking accountability. Remember the lawn darts called jarts?
Hmm.
Those things were dangerous. My brother and I were trying to figure out who could throw one the highest. And being the older brother, I figured I could. I launched that thing to see how high it would go, and the wind caught it. And it came down right in the middle of the hood of my mom's 74 LTD.
Hmm.
That hole stayed in there for the remainder of the time she owned that car. It never got fixed.
Yeah, as a reminder.
And just a little hole, but just straight down in the hood. Needless to say, Mom wasn't happy.
Yep.
So I think one of the things that, and I've talked to other people about too, with accountability, there's so many people that don't realize when you're pointing a finger at somebody else, you've got three pointing back at you. And trying to get people to look at things and hold themselves accountable, whether you do with anybody else or not. Just because it's the right thing to do. One of my biggest pet peeves is shopping carts at the grocery stores. Oh, I let it. I'll take accountability here. I let it eat my lunch because it's so simple. There's 10 yards. You can't walk 10 yards to put this cart back. And me, when I park, and if there's one sitting out there and I need a cart, knowing I'm going to the store, I take one with me. I
So
don't wait till I get up to the front of the store and get one of those and let somebody else handle that. And a lot of times, if I'm walking in and somebody's just about through unloading their groceries, I'll say, "Can I take that for you?" I don't know whether they're going to leave it out there or not, but I'm not going to take the chance because it might wind might blow it and blow it into the side of my truck, and I don't want that to happen either.
Well, you know what they say, Jeff? How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Absolutely. Well, and I like to think too that if you can't handle the little things, you'll never handle the big things.
Right.
You know, the and it's the same thing. I've got a friend of mine is one of the guys I need to invite on this podcast. His name's Darren Martin, Dr. Darren Martin. He has a book out called The Sink. He walked in and it made an impact on him. He went into a men's room one time and saw a guy wiping down the counter, cleaning up the counter. And he asked him, he's like, "Would you work here?" He goes, "No." He said, "I just always like to leave places better than I found them." And that hit Darren, and he literally wrote a book called The Sink about doing just that, leaving things better than the way you found them. And I do the same thing, picking up stuff if I walk in,
Mhm.
especially if it's a building I work in. It's like I look at it as my house. I help clean up, and be accountable and responsible. And sometimes you never know who may be watching. Because as parents, your kids are watching everything you do. So if they pick up bad habits, guess whose fault that is? It's probably yours because
Yep.
they watched you do the same thing. So
So going back to bathroom stuff, I, I don't know why, but I just so if there is a paper towel and people have to put the paper towels, if it's coming out the garbage, I'll take a clean paper towel and push all the towels. I've actually even stuck my foot in a garbage can to get all the towels down because I'm like, who wants to touch dirty towels? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I'm like, I can take one towel and just go like that, and then everybody has a clean place to put towels. But yeah,
absolutely.
I've even stuck my foot in a garbage can to get
Yeah.
all the stuff down.
So hopefully you didn't pick up any gum or anything in it.
No, I didn't. It was all paper towels from
But
people
I
driving.
was, I was on a trip one time, and the guy that I was, excuse me, a guy I was with, we were walking across the parking lot, and he literally had a water bottle, and he it was unscrewing the cap, and he dropped it, and he just looked down at it and kept walking, and I went, that tells me everything I need to know about who you are in here. If you can't be bothered to pick up a cap of your bottle, then you know, what else are you turning a blind eye to in your life?
Yeah.
And that's just whether it's like I said, shopping carts, cleaning up after yourself. You drop something, pick it up.
Yep.
The small things and being able to hold yourself accountable, with even when nobody's watching. That's the key thing to me, because
Yeah.
I got to be able to look myself in the eye at the end of the day and know that I didn't cheat anybody, I didn't lie to anybody. That's all part of the accountability that I go through every day.
Yep. 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 I get it. I get it.
So let me ask you to see here. Have you got any practical tools or techniques that you could share with our audience on how they can start looking at themselves to hold themselves accountable about something they may not even be thinking about today?
Yeah, actually I do. It's funny you asked that. I gotta see if I can find it. Well, there is a sheet that I use. I like to write things down. As much as I use this, I
Mhm.
do have a little sheet that helps me stay accountable. And so basically, what it is I have buckets, and I have my personal bucket, my business bucket, my coaching bucket, and all three things need to get done throughout the week, certain things.
Mhm.
So like for my business, starting my YouTube channel, getting ready to really record nicely, being on a podcast. So I write all that stuff down. Personal, all right, did I get all the holiday gifts? Did I do what I needed to do? And then for the coaching, I'm always learning. I have to do my CEUs for my accreditation.
Hmm.
So then I take all those 3 buckets and I start plugging them into my calendar, making time for each of that. So that helps me stay accountable, gives me a little check, so on and so forth. Now, I don't know if you know this about me, but I used to be a productivity task management subject matter expert. Still am, I just don't do it as much. But really holding on to like the calendar stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
Um, and so I remember, Jeff, I used to go speak on productivity, task management, and organization to all sorts of organizations. Um, and I'll never forget, people were like, but that's so rigid. I said, well, it may seem rigid, but once you start doing it, it actually gives you more flexibility because you're going to be able to understand how long something takes you, where
Mhm.
you can move it within your day, week, month. So it's about learning how long things are taking you and taking the time to really plan out what you can do. I have found in my many years of working with people, they over guesstimate what they're capable of doing in a day. And notice how I say guesstimate, because you're really guessing and
Mhm.
estimating how long something's going to take you.
Yep.
So
You
that's,
know, you reminded me though of a story when you're talking about the discipline there in doing that, and about the rigidity. And you said it allows you to be more flexible because then you'll start realizing how long it takes you, and that habit and the knowledge that you pick up from that can manifest itself in multiple ways in your life.
yeah,
Because I used to was a salesperson, outside salesperson around the state of Florida, and I covered the whole state for a number of years. And it's funny because you get in the habit, so you know how long it takes you to do something. I called one of my uncles one day because he was a trucker and he used to travel the state as well. And I asked him where he was. And ironically, he said, I'm headed north on I 75. I said, cool, I'm headed south on I 75. I said, you want to stop for coffee? And he said, yeah. And I knew where he was. And I said, well, let's meet. He goes, hold on. He said, I got to stop for gas. So instantly my brain figured out how long that would take because he was in his personal vehicle. And I recalculated. And I said, okay, meet me at a Waffle House. I said, meet me here in Bellevue. He said, I know where it is. We literally timed it so well. When I was coming down the off ramp, he drove in front of me, and we were literally an hour apart from each other, you know. So I knew exactly how long it would take him to get there. So it's not that can, like I said, manifest itself in everything. When
yeah.
it's the task that you give yourself for work, you get into that habit. So you instantly know when somebody asks you, you go, yes, I can fit that in my schedule because I know it's going to take this amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how our minds can work once we get those habits down pat.
And I'll be honest, Jeff, I used to teach people the power of no.
Oh, I'm learning that one.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the power of no. It's it's about how you say no. So let's pretend you asked me to be on this podcast and the date and time didn't work for me. I would say to you, you know what, Jeff, thank you so much for affording me the opportunity to share my knowledge to your people. That being said, the date that you gave me doesn't work for me. May I share with you a few dates that do? And I don't know where, I don't know how, I don't know when people felt that they can't say no. I just said no to you, though I gave you options on how to work with me so that we could do things.
Well, that was a no, but
No
no.
and.
Yeah, those are two of the words that I really, really do not like are try and but. you're talking about holding yourself accountable. If you're using the word try, it means you're giving yourself an excuse not to. It's like saying, I'm going to try and get up out of this chair. Either I'm going to get up or I'm not. And somebody asks you if you're going to be somewhere. Yeah, I'll try and be there. No, you're not. You're either going to show up or you're not. That's like the biggest word outside of if in the dictionary. And but, if someone says, yeah, but, it means what they just said or what they're about to say is a crock.
Yeah.
Because they don't agree with you. They're disagreeing. There's other ways in the words that you use, and that's holding yourself accountable too. The words that you use can make all the difference in the world.
I
How you communicate with people.
I literally just did a training on that and how our words really make us a good leader or a great leader.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
how we utilize the vocabulary and the intonation, how we say things, it really does matter on going from being a good leader to a great leader.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a webinar, and I don't know what date I'm going to drop this video, so it's probably going to be post dated because it's tomorrow. It's called Coffee with a Leader, and it's about having a conversation versus a confrontation. And that's the thing with me and holding myself accountable. When I have a conversation with somebody, I realize that the first words that come out of my mouth are going to determine which way that goes. And for that, I am accountable. I'm
Yep.
not going to tell you if I say something to someone and I know that I did my due diligence to not be offensive and use the words that would offend or make them, their hackles rise up on their neck, and they take offense afterwards, then I'm not responsible for their feelings, and I might be responsible sometimes if it come out of the side of my neck with somebody. I may be responsible for putting them in a position where they thought they had to feel that way, but I'm still not taking responsibility because those feelings come from their thoughts. And I learned a long time ago that you're in charge of four things, what you think, how you feel, what you say, and what you do. That's it.
Yep.
It's all in the world you're in charge of, are those four things.
So a thing that I like to tell my leaders when I'm working with them is before you speak, think to yourself, what am I intending to do with these words? Am I intending to empower someone? Disempower? What is my intention with the words that are going to be coming out of my mouth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's the thing is I learned too with, and John Maxwell repeats it all the time. He said, whatever you do, be intentional.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're trying to befriend somebody, be intentional and be careful with the words that come out of your mouth. Well, listen, as we wrap this up today, is there any last bit of information or tidbit that you would like to share with our audience?
Regarding accountability?
Absolutely.
Yes. So my number one tip about accountability is baby steps. Start small. If you've never had an accountability partner, seek one out. If you are looking to be more accountable for yourself, start small and then go from there, because when you have success, you can do it more consistently.
That's true. That's true. One of the things I learned too about you that I did not know was you're multilingual.
Sí, hablo español y
So I will wrap this up because, the fact that I've known you 3 years, estoy muy orgulloso de todos ustedes.
Oh, muchísimas gracias, Jeff. No supe.
No, poquito. Mi español es muy poquito. I learned that phrase for a group of trade school students in Houston that is their primary language is Spanish. So I say that to them now. The whole school is probably 70% Spanish is their first language. So as I'm speaking at their graduations, I use that term for them so they understand me.
Awesome. That is awesome, Jeff.
Thank you so much, dear. It was great catching up with you, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
And tell both of your boys, because they're both in the SEC, I said roll tide. Bye.
Have a great day, Jeff.